What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers downfall post-game show. The Blazers are falling down the standings. It's hashtag tank season. The Blazers lose tonight to the Milwaukee Bucks 137 to 108. This is a loss that everybody saw coming. No surprise here. About the margin of victory that I saw coming from the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. The Blazers end up playing their first game without Norman Powell, without Robert Covington. Justice Winslow makes his Blazer debut today. Eric Bledsoe has Achilles tendinopathy, but he hasn't missed a game this year for the Clippers, so that might be some fake news. I don't know. And then you have Keon Johnson dealing with an ankle injury. So one of the three new Blazers played today. We'll discuss a little bit more of the upcoming trade deadline a little bit later on in the stream. If you missed our stream about the trade, we streamed for like 3.5 hours yesterday, and then we talked about it a bit on our post-game show as well yesterday, and another post-game show today. Lots of streaming this weekend. Eric, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. And yeah, like I said yesterday, so 2 out of the 3 players we acquired have issues with their physical, yet we still, go through with the trade. So yeah, it was never about the players that we got. And that was going to happen no matter what they found on the physical. And as far as the 2 players that went to the Clippers, they would have accepted that trade had they found out that one of the 2 players they acquired was likely to not be able to walk in like a year because of something. They still would have accepted that trade. That's how good it was for them.
Yep. So I saw a lot of fans hopeful that they would go back on the deal or some physicals wouldn't go through. That is not the case. So at this point now, Eric, we just have to move forward and, the hope that whatever follow-up move isn't this bad.
And for those of you that want to talk trades, I have a question to ask all of you, and I want to know the answer from as many people as possible. That'll happen after we get done talking about this game. So stay tuned for that if you want to discuss something about trades moving forward. I have a question for you.
Yep, I'm looking forward to seeing what Eric has for us. Let's just jump straight into the team stats. Eric, let's not waste any time. Look at Milwaukee, 53% from the field, 46% from 3. Super efficient night for them. Bobby Portis pops off for 30 points in 24 minutes. Giannis Antetokounmpo has a good game. The Blazers defense just looked non-existent all game long.
Yeah, I mean, we were totally outmatched in this game. No surprise there that Milwaukee had their way. And, of course, it doesn't help that Bobby Portis was insanely hot. Yeah, and, they moved the ball really well. 36 assists on 49 made shots. Just really pretty basketball on their end. And, we didn't really have the firepower to match it.
Yep, we didn't shoot the 3 ball well. Still not shooting free throws well. We might be, in the past month, we might be the worst free throw shooting team in the NBA. Offensive rebounds about the same. They passed the ball really well. 36 assists on 49 made field goals. Their ball movement was crisp tonight. The Blazers, 16 turnovers to their 10. Milwaukee got out on the break as well. 24 fast break points for them. Portland did win the points in the paint battle, Eric, which is a little bit surprising considering they have Giannis Antetokounmpo. Portland wins it by almost 20, 52 to 34. So that was kind of the surprising stat of the night. Everything else went about exactly like I thought it would.
Well, I mean, when Giannis is cashing almost his career high in 3-pointers, I think it was like 4 for 7 or 4 for 8. He doesn't even need to go in the paint to dominate us. So.
Yeah, he started off this game very, very hot from 3. So, I don't know. What are some of your maybe takeaways from this game that you want to start off with? And no, it's hard. It's going to get harder and harder and harder.
No, it's not hard. I'm just trying to decide how I want to phrase this.
It's hard for me.
Okay, so I saw the main thing on like social media during this game was like how come people are complaining about certain players if they're wanting to tank and we're losing and all this stuff. And so here's what I'll say to that. People don't want to watch a tank and watch like Justice Winslow and CJ McCollum and like Yusuf Nurkic do stuff in a game, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
is no offense to any of those players. And I don't. It was kind of questionable whether there was booze for Justice Winslow when he came in the game. Like, don't do that crap. Like, it's not Justice Winslow's fault. Yeah, he's gonna play hard when he comes in. Like, I'm sure if people gave him a chance, he'd be kind of a hustle guy, fan favorite maybe. But like, that's the problem. We don't want to watch like Eric Bledsoe and Justice Winslow play basketball for 30 minutes a game and lose because that's not fun and it doesn't matter for our future. If we're playing like Greg Brown 35 minutes and Watford's getting 30 minutes and Simons is doing his thing and um, whoever else like Keon Johnson when he finally plays, like if he's getting lots of minutes, like that's fine, that's good, that's awesome. But I don't want to sit here and watch CJ McCollum shoot 20 shots a game and us lose by 30. Like that's not a fun tank, and it doesn't really help us do anything for the future to get better. So the whole point of tanking this part of the season is to let the young guys play, in my opinion. So that's the only thing I'd say pushback wise to people who say like, why are people complaining about Winslow if he sucks? Isn't that good? Isn't that what you want for a tank?
Yeah, and Winslow plays 20 minutes, Watford plays 24, Brown plays 17. So decent minutes mark for Watford and Brown compared to, pretty much every game they've played this season. But I would rather take those Justice Winslow minutes and just give Watford 34 minutes and Greg Brown 27 minutes at this point. And maybe some people might argue that they are trying to see what they have in Justice Winslow, but we know who Justice Winslow is as a player right now. Justice Winslow is 25 years old, but he's been getting worse the past 4 years, and the book is out on him. He can't shoot. Okay, he can play some defense. I don't know. I think he's maybe a little bit overrated on that end, and then he can pass a little bit, and that's about it. On a good team, he's not a rotation player. So there's no reason for the Blazers to play him a bunch of minutes over a Watford, over a Greg Brown, in order to, trial run him. Because honestly, at this point, I think Trent Watford is already better than him. So if there's going to be any of these guys that came off the bench today in the rotation next year, I think Watford would be the most likeliest member. I think he's maybe the most talented member of this bench, maybe outside of Ben McLemore when he's shooting the ball well. But when McLemore isn't making shots, he's not really helping the team. Watford is kind of that all-around glue guy, makes smart plays smart defense, hustles. He's fun to watch. He's the funnest player to watch on this team right now off the bench. Simons, when he has it going, is obviously a thrill. CJ had some flashy moments in this game that were fun to watch. Nurkic can be fun to watch as well. But, in terms of kind of some project guys, some long-term guys, Watford is extremely entertaining. And Greg Brown had himself a good game today too, Eric. 17 minutes, 10 points, 4 rebounds, a steal, and a block. 4 for 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. So just give him more minutes, because it's obvious that he's still a little bit too sped up and still getting used to the NBA. You have a perfect opportunity to give him as much of an NBA dosage as you can right now, and Justice Winslow's playing 20 minutes. So, I'm not gonna really complain about Justice Winslow playing 20 minutes, but I would just rather those minutes go to developmental guys that actually have a chance at being a piece for us in the long term.
And first game, that's fine. He's playing. He's gonna get some minutes, and I don't know if they're fully on board of letting the young guys just take over the rest of the season. But the next week's also going to shape this.
Yeah, agreed. So, I'll get your breakdown in here in a second. What other takeaways did you have from this game?
I just want Antonio. Okay, so first of all, this goes for Antonio and everyone else. Don't post fake trades, or I'm gonna put you in a timeout. First warning, second warning, you'll be hidden on this channel. It's stupid trolling, and it makes no sense. And the other thing is too, I can tell within 1 second that that's not a real trade because CJ doesn't match John Wall's contract, and so you're not fooling anybody. We're too smart on this channel. Go watch. Go tweet at Jason Peterson perspective. He's stupid on trade stuff, so he probably think that's a valid trade. So go hit him up on Twitter if you want to go with that stupid crap.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say on that. Anyway, let's jump into your. Are you ready for your breakdown?
Sure.
All right. You only got one play for us. What is this play?
This was shortly after Justice Winslow came into the game. We're going to set up in kind of a horn set, and Ant's going to start on one side and clear out to the other side. CJ is going to pass the ball to Winslow in the second slide, and
little back screen action for Simons.
Middleton's expecting CJ to flare on this because that's what he always does, right? And this is what we talk about all the time. Cutting to the basket not only gets you some open baskets sometimes, but it also makes the defense think about having to overplay you on the three-point line. So later on, it probably led to an open three at one point. So this play, Nurk sets a side pick, and instead of Anthony flaring, he just dives straight to the basket. And you can see how open he is because Monroe doesn't help at all. And CJ gets a nice pass from Justice Winslow, who is a talented passer. That's probably his best attribute.
Are you sure that's CJ? Isn't that Simons?
I mean, Simons gets that's what I meant to say. Yeah, Simons gets a good pass from Winslow, and Anthony gets a wide open lay-in.
Yeah, just good horns action. I mean, it's just reading your defender. Too many times, especially last year, we'd run flares all the time, and guys would just run them automatically. But if you're being trailed and the big is up guarding the big man, you got to curl that and go to the rim because you'll be able to get this pass, be able to get a layup. So, that was a critique of ours last year is we have to figure out ways to manufacture easy shots without it being Damian Lillard having to split multiple defenders and like beat a third guy to the backboard, So stuff like this I like to see. Hopefully long term when we get Dame back, when we have Simons in the backcourt, we'll be able to manufacture, maybe one of these shots a game for each of them. That would be ideal as kind of the bar to set. Because, you think back to Dame playing, it's hard for him to get easy shots like this. All right, and if we're not really running much for him off the ball, he's never going to get an easy shot like this. Unless it's like a steal in an open court, fast break, whatever. So in the half court, you gotta just kind of switch things up and run different things, different wrinkles, so the defense doesn't know what's coming, and then B, guys like Dame, guys like Simons have to read the defense and make this cut when it's there. So, anyway.
Yep. That's all I had for tonight. Obviously not the best game to pull stuff from. It's kind of sloppy.
Yeah, it's full tank mode, man. And I said last night that was the first game I had watched where it was like a situation where I was rooting for the team to lose just because I think there's no way this team is good enough to compete this year. I don't think there's any way this team makes the playoffs at this point. So if losing helps us win next year by making our pick better, and that makes it a better trade asset, or we can take a better player with it, then I am all for that. So it's going to take some getting used to. We still have, this was game number 50. What did I put in the thumbnail? 53? Do you know what game this was? I can't even remember. I literally just typed it in the thumbnail. Shout out to you if you actually pay attention to the thumbnail tags too. I'm gonna try and keep them creative when we lose them.
This is game 54.
No, it was 53. I thought.
Nope, 54.
I messed up the thumbnail. Sick.
We're 21-33.
Okay, well, I will fix the thumbnail right now. Game number 54. So we only got 28 games left. It's still going to take some getting used to, just like going into games, knowing you're going to lose games like this, knowing you don't have pretty much a shot at all, and then rooting for this. I want individual players to play well, but long term, I want to lose games. So it's just weird to watch a game like this, and it's so weird to break it down. Because even in our struggles in the past 2 years, Eric, it's still been a situation where we're always wanting the team to win. So in terms of the post-game stuff, talking about the actual game, we're going to try our best, but it's going to be a challenge that we've never really had to deal with before. So.
Speaking of Winslow real quick, Shaggy Squid has a good question. Normally it would be a good question. Could Winslow, after developing under Chauncey a bit, turn into a solid defensive playmaking role player that actively looks to make back cuts, etc.? Um, Here's what I'll say to that: Ty Lue is a better coach at this point than Chauncey Billups. So, and Chauncey learned his coaching stuff from Ty Lue, right? So, if Ty Lue was not, and then Winslow also played for Eric Spoelstra, who is also a great coach. Like if he's not going to learn anything from Chauncey that he wouldn't have already been been taught in his career. So it's just a matter of, uh, you know, trying to find a way to maximize his strengths, which he does have some, and limit his weaknesses, which are what we talk about, like with the Dennis Smith Jr. all the time, right? Who, like, is just a liability out there because he can't make a jumper and the spacing's all off. So if you can find a way to limit some of that stuff, then you could maybe use him as a rotational player. But like Chauncey's not gonna make him any different of a player other than he's playing with a different cast of characters. So maybe he plays a little bit, but it's not gonna matter what Chauncey does.
Yeah, and I've seen people say, "Oh, he's 25 years old. He's still young." He's not a young 25 though. This is his 7th season in the NBA, and he's like the athleticism he had, Eric, has just been zapped because of injury. He's been very injury prone the past couple of years.
And he's a lot bigger than when he came in the league too.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect anything out of him. I don't count on him being on the team next season, but he's kind of a guy who was a big name in previous years. He was a big name in college at Kentucky. So I feel like there's some people kind of getting caught up in that and like, oh, maybe we can extract that potential. But honestly, it's the same thing I said with Mario Hezonja, man. Like Mario Hezonja was the 5th overall pick, was a pretty big name in the year that he was drafted, and people thought, oh, maybe Terry Stotts, maybe this is a situation he needs. Maybe he can finally get his career on the right track. And I never really subscribed to that with Mario Hezonja because he just wasn't a good basketball player. Justice Winslow is not a good basketball player anymore. He can't shoot, doesn't have much burst. He's only 6'6". Like, he's a guy that can play some defense, and that's about it. His playmaking has declined a little bit too. He's not a guy that can really play off the ball super easily unless he's cutting well. He's a guy that maybe deserves a spot at the end of a bench, but the Clippers, with all their injury problems, I mean, he was only playing 13 minutes a game for them, so I wouldn't really count on Winslow being something long term. That's just my vision on it.
Quick correction, he's a Dookie, not a Wildcat.
Oh, yeah, he was Duke, because I think he played Gonzaga. I think that was the year Gonzaga made the Elite Eight, and then Duke beat them, if I recall correctly. And I remember Justice Winslow playing against them.
I'm disappointed no one in chat caught that. Man, you guys are
I was
slipping.
Just testing him, yeah.
Jeez,
I'm going to have to check that. 2015
So, Winslow, we saw it tonight. He can grab a rebound, push the pace, and I really like when players, I think Watford can be just as good as him. That's part of the problem why I don't really think Winslow has a future on this team, because like you said, Watford is already showing that he can do some of the same stuff, and he has a much higher ceiling in terms of shooting and overall team game. Winslow had a very nice rebound. He drives down, he gets to the middle of the paint, and he's obviously not going to take it in 1-on-3, and he draws everyone in, and then he turns around and kicks it out. I forgot if it was to Ann or CJ, but someone was wide open for a 3. And I really like players who can do that. So it is a useful skill. It's just in a half-court setting, it becomes a lot more limited. But I do like I do like his ability to kind of be used as a playmaker. But we've seen that. We have Nurk, we have Larry Nance, we have all these kind of guys who can do that, and we haven't really used them to the best of our abilities so far. So I have a hard time believing that we'd have like a guy like Winslow come in and all of a sudden just run all this different stuff for him that we weren't doing before.
Yeah, I looked up that Duke Gonzaga game, 2015 NCAA tournament. Domantas Sabonis was coming off the bench for Gonzaga, only played 18 minutes in that game. Justice Winslow had 16 points. That was like he played with Jahlil Okafor, Tyus Jones. That was the year they beat Wisconsin in the championship. So Was it good? I don't remember. My memory is not. Yeah, it was Wisconsin. Okay, good. I'm glad I got that right. I'm glad I can remember my NCAA tournament. Shout out Brady Johnson, $2 dono. Says, hope you guys are doing well. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you, Brady. Thank you for the $2 dono. You want to hop into player cards?
Yeah.
All right, let me get those loaded.
Get through this game as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm down with that. We'll jump into player cards. I just have to get them plugged in here. Anything in chat you want to answer, Eric? Go ahead and stall for a second.
What was his donation?
$2 dono.
That's all it was.
Yeah, I read it off.
Oh.
What do you mean?
I know. I was looking to see if there was anything to talk about, but thank you, Brady.
Yeah. Nah, it's just a heartfelt message from Brady, man.
I thought someone else became a member, but I don't see it on here.
I didn't see anything like that.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, Caleb says watching this game put him in a bad mood. I wouldn't say that. I mean, did anyone expect to win or actually have a chance in this game against the defending champs with basically no one playing? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
The good thing we can take from this game is that, I mean, we are seemingly willing to play the young guys, so that's good. We don't have. I mean, one of the bright spots is we don't have to sit here and say, why did Norman Powell and Robert Covington play 39 minutes in this game when we lost by 30 to the Bucks, right? So I guess, like, if you like to see Greg Brown and you want to see some highlight dunks, we saw Ant, man, he's gonna freaking posterize someone one of these days.
He tried to dunk on Giannis.
He almost dunked on Giannis. Nurk did dunk on Giannis. So yeah, just look for Ant to be more aggressive the more confidence he gets, and I love that attack from him. And man, Ant's throwing some passes that would hurt NFL wide receivers right now. Like, he's throwing some laser one-handed passes on the run, and they're right on the money. But he's going to start, like, breaking some fingers on some of those passes if he doesn't take some off of them. But some of those drives, if he just puts his head down and goes to the basket, he's going to get fouled or he can try to dunk on someone. So I don't even think he needs to pass on some of those. But I think watch for him to try and be more aggressive as the season goes on. And then watch for Greg Brown. I mean, anytime that guy's in the game, we saw tonight, there's just a highlight possible at any moment. And definitely a fun player to watch, and he's entertaining if the rest of the team isn't.
Yeah, agreed. Actually, I'm going to save for his player card. Let's just jump into the player cards. Ant, please drive Simons. 5 for 13 from the 3. I swear, every time he made a 3, I glanced away for a second. I was watching the Gonzaga game on my computer and then the Blazer game on my phone. And I swear, I watched every single 3 he missed, and then I missed every single 3 he made.
Well, he was 4 for 6, and then he was 1 for his last 7. So
yeah.
I thought he was maybe getting out of the slump, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know, man. He doesn't look to have necessarily the same level of confidence he was playing in. He was in an absolute groove in January, but it's almost, I don't know. I wonder if the team situation around him has kind of zapped some of his, confidence, because it's just such a weird, ugly situation. I would love to see him out there playing next to Dame. I feel like, if he's the starting guard next year next to Dame, then, those two will thrive off each other, and he'll be able to play a little bit better than he is right now, because 5 turnovers isn't really characteristic of him for this season. I mean, he got his pocket picked by Greg Monroe.
Yeah.
I was shocked when that happened. So guys are just collapsing on him super hard too. So even if he does get by guys, he's having so many defenders crash on him, and then it's a kick out pass. And honestly, guys just aren't making shots off his kick out passes. Maybe it's because he's throwing them so hard that their hands are then numb. I don't know. But it'd be fun to see him start popping off offensively like he was about 3 weeks ago. But you take the good with the bad in a situation like this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the times he was thriving, it was like the ball was in his hands up top. He was like Dame. every possession almost, when he was in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like sometimes it's him, sometimes it's CJ, sometimes it's, whatever. But like it was just him and Nurk were developing that nice chemistry. They haven't really done a lot of pick and rolls in the middle of the top of the key. Yeah, I just kind of want his usage rate to be like super high the rest of the season, and screw any repercussions from other players that don't want that to happen or need the ball in their hands. I just feel like that's the most important thing right now, is getting Ants to develop as much as possible these last 30 games. 28.
Yep, agreed. Let's move on to him. Ben McLemore had an okay game. Got to the line 6 times, got fouled on 2 threes. Pat Connaughton was setting him to the line for whatever reason on 3-point jump shots. 2 assists, 4 boards, 19 points for Benny McNuggets. 5 for 13 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3. So still not necessarily an efficient shooting night from 3 for him, but it's better than the 0-4 game that he had last night.
Yeah. Dude loves to shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame him, I guess, on this team right now. He's getting threes, but he gets his shots up, man.
He should be on a different team after the deadline, though. He serves no purpose on this team right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice for Ant to have somebody to kick out to that can make shots, but...
See, you're not going to get a Keon Johnson level player, but there's no reason why we can't trade him to a contender for like someone who's like a young player who is a recent second-round pick warming up the bench. Like, for example, the team we played tonight, a Jordan Nwora or someone like that, It doesn't even have to be that good of a player, but, like, it's just something like that. At the very minimum, I think we should do.
Yeah, I agree. Just take a flyer on somebody, identify somebody that they like, or get a second-round pick. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be funny if, we trade Norm and Rocco and all we can get is a second-round pick and a 6'3 guard, but then we trade a 6'3 Ben McLemore and we get a second round pick. That's kind of funny to me. So, we'll see if he's on this team past the deadline. Only 5 days remain until the deadline. Let's move on to CJ is gone. McCollum, 17.6 assists, 2 rebounds, no turnovers today for him. Just struggled shooting the ball. He just, he was 6 for 10 inside the arc, which is fine. Got to the line twice, made both his free throws. Just struggled to hit threes. Otherwise, I don't think it was a bad game from CJ at all.
Yeah, he had a nice stretch of passes to Nurkic. One, he like zipped it, but it was like high and away, so Nurk caught it and turned and easily scored. And then he had one where he drove in. It looked like he was going to shoot it, and then he just had a nice little dump off pass to Nurk for a dunk. I like that when he's moving the ball. So 6 assists. You like to see that, no turnovers. Outside of missing some threes, I don't think this is a bad game at all for CJ.
Yep, I agree with that, although the plus-minus doesn't. Minus 29, our starters were...
Yeah, it was like minus 37 or something.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about maybe CJ trade rumors in a second. Let's move on to Yusuf Nurkic, 11 points, 10 boards, 3 assists, 5 for 6 from the field, 1 for 3 from the free throw line with 3 turnovers. He had 2 blocks, though. Minus 36 in 25 minutes for Nurk.
Yeah. He's got to stop at the turnovers, man. He keeps getting stripped in the post, and you just got to stop that. He had one really horrible cross-court pass where he just threw it right to a Bucks defender. I forgot who it was. But, I mean, 5 of 6, 11 and 10. I mean, it's not terrible numbers, and 3 assists is good from your center. So, not the worst game. I think, obviously CJ is probably a little bit in his head right now with the trade rumors, but I just can't be a very comfortable last few days for Nurkic here to see what team he's going to play for either. Yeah.
I mean, for all the people that want him to dunk, is dunking over Giannis good enough for them? Because that was, I accidentally backed it up to CJ. I mean, 5 for 6, finished strong. That dunk on Giannis, that's what people wanted, right? So if he gets traded in the next couple of days, then he went out with a punctuation mark for all the people that were telling him to dunk. Anyway, let's move on to Greg. Good game for Greg. I assume this is a career high. 10 points. We already talked about him a little bit. He looked like he was going to put a poster on somebody on that one turnover he had where he got closed out on hard in the corner, and he drove by the guy, and then for some reason forgot how to dribble the ball, couldn't even dribble it straight. I think he was thinking about what he was going to try and do at the rim. I was so bummed. That was the low point of the game for me, because I was so excited to see what he was going to try and do on that drive, and he dribbled it like off his foot.
Yeah, he definitely has to clean up his handles. One of his other dunks, he probably got away with a little bit of double dribble too. He just it's like when you get home and you have a dog and they're super excited to see you. Like every time he's going on a fast break, I feel like he gets a little too excited and then kind of ramps it up. But so he just needs to calm down. At some point, for every young player, the game kind of slows down for him a little bit. And if he can just tighten up his handles a little bit and also just cut with more frequency, I think people were looking for him to cut a little more tonight than he was. He might have had even more dunks.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see him play 35 minutes a game because I want to see him be confident. I still don't think he's truly confident. He had a good drive and two-hand dunk on a fast break to end this game, but it still seems like he's sped up. And I just want to see if we give him a boatload of minutes and he maybe gets a little bit of confidence on an NBA court, how he'll look, especially because it's the dude can dribble in a straight line. He's an NBA player. He can dribble, but it's stuff like just dribbling it off his hip and on a straight line drive, that type of stuff. I feel like if we just fed him more minutes, maybe kind of those nervous mistakes might calm themselves down. That's just my pure speculation, but that's why I want to see him play more. Yeah. What'd you say?
Like they are for Trendon.
Yeah, exactly. Look how much more comfortable Trendon is now compared to the start of the season or when he started playing. He looks so comfortable and confident right now, so I would like to see what that version of Greg Brown would look like.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I say, if we truly are going for a draft pick, there's no reason to not give this guy 30 minutes a game moving forward. There's no reason to not do that.
Absolutely.
And he's a forward. We don't really have any good forwards right now, so
yeah,
you might as well play him.
Yeah, agreed. I want to see him bring the ball up and try and get a triple-double. That'll help the tank, right? So anyway, we're going to move on to pure hooper Tony Snelleroni. He finally starts playing well, Eric. This game and the last game, he finally starts shooting the ball well, finally starts playing solid, had a steal and block in 22 minutes, 9 points on 3 for 6 from 3.
Yeah, hopefully this last little bit will get 18 to take him for nothing to save our roster spot situation. I don't know. That's all I'm looking forward to. 3 for 6 for threes. Maybe his team sees the box score tonight and be like, man, I could use a Tony Snelleroni for free off my bench, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily count on that, considering how bad he struggled all year. But if he played like this all year, you could be talking about maybe a team would be willing to give up a late second for him. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and with Macklemore if they remain on the team past this NBA trade deadline. Anyway, let's move on to, here we go. What's the addition here, Eric? I see some pink around the border, so I think he added a little bit of pink to it. Trendon poster. Hey, Trendon looked athletic, driving the ball, kind of finishing high. One of them was an offensive foul that resulted in a turnover. But you just like to see him taking it aggressively and actually getting up and kind of finishing high and finishing strong. He had another play which wasn't an offensive foul that he did that on. So that's kind of a good development. He had that was this game, right? Am I tripping? The drive and then the pump fake where 3 players jumped at his pump fake?
He did that and then he kicked it out. After
and then it was a kick out pass. Yeah. I was
that was the same.
I think he did something similar a couple games ago. Oh, yeah, that was the Rondo move. So, but yeah, that drive and pump fake and draws multiple players off their feet, then turns and quickly kicks it out for a 3. Unfortunately, it wasn't an assist for him, but that type of play, impressive. You know, if he's a guy that can just drive and finish, and then when multiple guys commit to him, drive, pump fake, get him out of position, and then quickly make a pass, that's a good glue guy to have on the team off the bench next year, considering he's been a good defensive player, I think, this year, and will continue to get better. I mean, he's only a rookie. So another impressive game. I like that we're starting to see a little bit more out of him in these extra minutes that he's getting. Still would just like to play him even more.
Rahi has a great point. We lost by 29 points, and somehow this dude played half the game and was a +2. How's that even possible?
Yeah, we outscored him by 2 when he was on the court for half the game, and then the other half of the game we got outscored by 31. So, yeah, play Trendon less then, actually, if we're trying to tank. Maybe he's going to be our tank for the rest of the year. Yeah, imagine hearing these statements at the start of the season. Yeah, this is what you guys are going to be saying in February. My goodness, let's move on to CJ. No garbage time, Elagoat. He got subbed out for garbage time. He's no longer a garbage time player. 1 for 5 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Very quiet game from him tonight, Eric. He had a stretch where he was like doing some things offensively, and that's kind of evaporated as of late.
Well, I mean, I don't think any of his shots were bad shots. He missed a few at the beginning of the game, but they were all open shots that you got to take in the NBA if you're open. 0 for 3 from 3, had that nice dunk on a fast break. But other than that, I mean, I feel like he's playing fine. He ended up in the zone. He got matched up against Giannis a lot, which is a very tough matchup for anybody, let alone someone who's not anywhere near the size of Giannis. But I feel like he's playing fine. It's just like if he could just get like his first or second 3 to fall, maybe it's a different story. But yeah, he's still struggling shooting. But all the other aspects of his game, I feel like he's not really doing anything negative out there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have anything more to say about him. Let's move on to Keljin. He scored. He also shot a step-back 3 with a lot of confidence. I mean, he has some irrational confidence. Eric had a nice assist, too. I mean, look at Keljin, man. He's starting to do some things that are reminiscent of a G League player.
Man, he shot a step-back 3, but he was 0 for 0 from 3, huh?
Yeah, Chris didn't count his 3 as a 3.
Can't even give Blevins
maybe his foot was on the
for
line.
3.
His foot might have been on the line. I'll check the ESPN box score. It was not a 3 on the ESPN. I guess his foot was on the line. So Chris says, don't come at me, bro. Anyway, yeah, 1 for 2.
Sorry, Chris.
That would have been disappointing if it went in. It was only a very long 2. That would be like the Blevins thing to do. Pull off the sickest move of his career, and you think it's a 3, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what are we supposed to say about Blevins?
That he's the GOAT. I don't know. Anyway, that wraps up the player cards. Before we get into the Twitter space, I want to talk trades. I want to know what question you have for us, Eric. I figure we'll just jump into this, just dive in deep. We got a good pace this post-game show, so I'm curious what your question is.
All right, so I want chat, as many of you to answer as possible. We've heard a lot of people, especially media members, saying, don't judge this trade. Wait to see what happens over the next few days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you, Tori, and everyone in chat, who is a player the Blazers could acquire, whether it be for CJ or whatever? What kind of trade could the Blazers make in your mind to make up and get Cronin back in your good gracious? You're a little more advanced than a lot of people versus the question maybe, but like what's one player we could acquire in the next few days that would change your mind maybe a little bit?
Realistically, or
I mean, like, obviously don't say Giannis or,
yeah.
Yeah, or LeBron or, I mean, if that's what it would take to get you to change your mind, then sure, but yeah.
I don't know if he can. I don't know, the reasoning for this trade is so off, and the reasons he gave for making this trade, they're so off that it's like, if he makes a great trade, I'll be saying, okay, this is a really good trade, all right? Maybe I trust him a little bit more, but the first trade still sucks. Unless there was some sort, like, it's really hard to do this because they hypothetically could have traded Norm and Snell to the New Orleans Pelicans and maybe thrown in McLemore, and that's as much outgoing salary as Eric Bledsoe is. So I don't really understand how, like, trading for Eric Bledsoe's contract sets you up for a follow-up move. You know, like, so especially if we don't trade Eric Bledsoe and he's still on the team, it's like, what was the point of this deal? This deal made no sense. So, you know, he can maybe gain a little bit more trust if he can pull off a good move. Then it's like, okay, he pulled off one of the most boneheaded moves I've ever seen, and then he pulled off a good trade. So it's like low floor, high ceiling GM, I guess. I don't know. But that's kind of where I sit with this.
All right. So, yeah, I think obviously if he finds a stupid enough team to take Bledsoe and give us something to where we actually get like an expiring contract and another second round pick, then that it still doesn't justify the trade, but then you start to be like, okay, that's a little bit better, right? But that's still not like fully getting back in the good graces. So let me just look through chat. So I see like Miles Turner. So how do you get Miles Turner? I guess if you have a third team, because I don't see them wanting CJ, maybe you get assets to the Pacers that they want and he comes here. So I don't know, but like, does that necessarily justify you trading Norman Rocco then? Like, I don't see how that really makes that much better. And honestly, if we do trade for someone like a Miles Turner level player, it's going to make me question why we made that other trade anyway. So I don't get it. So that's definitely would be interesting. And I put Jeremy Grant in that same category. Like, maybe I guess technically if one of those teams, the Pacers or the Pistons, maybe were super high on Keon Johnson, and we somehow get a first round pick in another trade, and that's how we get our young player and a first to get a Miles Turner or a Jeremy Grant, like, maybe then I could see some justification, right, of a trade like that.
See, but like, then why wasn't it just a part of the Clippers deal? You know what I mean? That's kind of the point with that. So, but yeah, I would agree. Like, if this trade became something where, oh, he made this trade because this team really overvalued one of the pieces of this trade for whatever reason, then obviously this trade becomes better. And I will be sitting here saying, okay, well, he realized something and the criticism was unfair. But it'd have to be like, oh, this team's willing to give up 2 first-round picks for Keon Johnson or something like that. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, well, we got 2 first-round picks for Norm and Rocco. And then you're sitting there like, okay, that's fine. But I think that's really unrealistic. That's the problem. That's why I'm confident in my criticism of that trade.
I mean, we heard like people say he has a first-round pick value because he was a recent first-round pick. There's not a team in the league, in my opinion, that would give up a first for Keon Johnson right now. Like, it seems like his value is less than when it was when he was drafted right now. And it's not a knock on him. I mean, there's some players that are like that. But I mean, there could, I guess, be a team that's rebuilding like Detroit or Orlando or someone like that would want him in a trade. So maybe. But like you said, it makes it, since we didn't include that team in this trade, it makes it harder for us to then make it work. But Jeremy Grant and Miles Turner both make the correct amount to trade Bledsoe and attach another small contract without it triggering the you can't combine salaries rules, because it works with just Bledsoe. So those are the type of players that maybe if you want to like keep hope alive, that's something good will happen, right? As for bigger targets, I don't even think it's worth talking about Jalen Grant or Jaylen Brown or Jaylen Brown or Pascal Siakam, because I don't think either of those.
Just call him Pascal.
No, Pascal Siakam, and so I don't think it's worth trading for those. Trying to see who else you got. So guys like Rui, I mean, I don't think this trade would affect whether we could get a Rui unless we take on Berton's contract, and maybe that's part of it. So maybe. I would feel a lot better if we traded Bledsoe for Rui and Bertans. That would make me feel a lot better about this trade. And then the other ones I saw a lot of was Ben Simmons, and
Dude,
that's interesting.
I can't wait for Eric Bledsoe, Dennis Smith Jr., and Ben Simmons lineups.
This is going to be my point, right? So this is what's going to happen, right? If we traded for Ben Simmons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, like, Maury, the deadline comes and he's like, oh, crap. Okay, I'll take CJ for Ben Simmons or whatever, right? So all those people, first of all, I mean, unless we traded out Nurk or Nance along with the trade, we would then be back in the tax. So all those people who said we just made that move to get under the tax, it would no longer be we'd no longer be under the tax. But let's just say it happened and we did it. We just traded for, I could probably sit here and name every NBA player, and not one of those names would be as bad as the three players we just acquired from the Clippers in terms of fit with Ben Simmons on this team, right? Because you need to surround Ben Simmons with shooters, and we just acquired three of the worst shooting players in the league at their positions.
Yeah.
And so if that's the goal, if we end up trading for Ben Simmons, great, fine. But I don't want to hear that Cronin redeemed himself with that trade, because he made it much worse trading for Ben Simmons than it could have been had we made a better trade with Norm or Rocco, or possibly even kept those guys with them. And that's been my problem. I'm sure Tori will agree with this. This was my problem with the trade, is it doesn't make sense. Even if you pull off a spectacular move, it still limits how you can make a Dame and Ben Simmons team better in the future. And that is the problem with this trade. So I don't want to hear all these people saying, see, told you there was a next step. We got Ben Simmons, idiot Eric, like you're so stupid. Look what Cronin did. Because it still doesn't justify making a stupid trade beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the way to redeem himself, is make a move that makes this deal make more sense. But it's like the packages that they supposedly had on the table could have accomplished, whatever they were going after in a better way, right? And it's like, if you trade CJ straight up for Ben Simmons, you're back in the luxury tax, right? But, if you traded Norm to New Orleans and got no salary back and got a first-round pick back, or even just a second-round pick, screw it, you'd be $12 million under the luxury tax, so you could trade CJ's $30.8 million for Ben Simmons' $33 million, right? And you still would have been like $10 million under the luxury tax. So it's a situation where, if he makes a good move that involves none of the pieces we traded for, that trade is independent of his initial trade. His initial trade would still be terrible, even if his follow-up move is great. The only way the initial trade isn't terrible is if, he can turn one of the pieces he got back into more value than they should be worth. And that would basically redeem the value that he gave up in the trade in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I sit on that. I still don't know what, his justification for the trade, though, just made it worse, because it still doesn't make sense. If he came out here and said, we really like Keon Johnson, okay, sure. But, that's the thing, is right now, unless there is a move like that, his justification for the trade just makes it even worse, because it doesn't actually accomplish what he's accomplishing if he doesn't flip one of these pieces for an overvalue.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
I didn't finish the quote yesterday.
What do you mean?
Have you read that full quote that
I think so. I don't.
Okay, so
know which part you're talking about specifically.
I want to read the part that I did not read. Right.
Okay.
So I read his first answer. We talked about that. We laughed out loud how it was all BS. Mm-hmm. That cap flexibility cleans up our books and creates more opportunities through the draft and free agency. Right. Total BS.
Yeah.
And it's not even true. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he was asked, does the trade reflect the fact that Anthony Simons is a core piece going forward? This is Joe Cronin answering. A core piece, definitely. We wanted to create a runway here for him, right? some people are like, oh, see, we got rid of Norm. It creates room for Ant. We could have traded Norm in any number of trades and made that still possible. But we brought in guards, right? So it doesn't make any sense that we created a runway when we brought in guards, right? But anyways, just ignore all that, right? This is what I want to talk about. The final statement of this answer. So listen closely. Was it hard to trade an established veteran in Norman Powell given your desire to build a winner? Cronin says, obviously a very good player that had some really good moments with us. He'll be missed. It's just having to move that money to other positions. Huh?
Yeah.
That's what the motivation was. Wait for it. That's what the motivation was. Roster balance. What the hell are you talking about, Joe Cronin? That makes no sense. Roster balance? What do you mean roster balance?
We got 2 guards and a 6'6" 3-man who can't shoot. How
roster balance? Really?
We literally traded a power forward. We traded a power forward and we traded a shooting guard / small forward for 2 guards and a small forward. How does that balance the roster? And he
balanced the roster. Like Winslow balances the roster or something. Like that made me believe that he actually thinks Winslow is like a rotational piece moving forward, and that scares me.
Which is scary. Yeah.
Yeah, like Eric Wilson says, he's got to be trolling, right? Like, I mean, there's no way that dude just said that trade created draft opportunities and a runway for Ant and cap flexibility and roster balance. Wrong on all accounts. wrong. All wrong, Cronin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. And then people are gonna say, like, wait for him to make a follow-up move. The dude doesn't know what he's doing. He's in over his head, man. He should have never been promoted to the general manager spot.
Yeah. I mean, I read that part and laughed at that part too. I didn't realize we didn't read it off on stream yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know now. Yeah, I was just trying to remember what exactly it was because the whole thing was laughable.
He told there was a quick article today in which he basically just said that the fans need to just trust him. You know, that same BS again that Olshey always said.
He's another Olshey, man. Like, create a runway for Ant. That's exactly how Olshey would have said it. Like, what does that mean?
But okay, so Reese says the only thing he can think of is that they wanted good defenders around Ant for by roster balance, right? So one is Ant has had his best moments playing and starting next to McLemore this year, who spaces the floor. And okay, so you can say maybe that's a horrible, duo defensively, sure. But cap flexibility to me means you're not keeping Bledsoe, right? Because if you pick up his option next year, it's $20 million, and you created less cap flexibility because that's more than Norm was making, and Rocco is a free agent. So you're actually adding less cap flexibility next year. So that doesn't make sense either. So, like, I just think this guy doesn't know what he's doing. It makes no sense. So if he was trying to get a defending point guard next to Ant, or maybe as a third guard with Dame, then say that. Don't say it's for cap flexibility, and because that implies that you're probably going to buy him out if he's not traded by then. So I don't know, that it just doesn't make sense. So I mean, I get it. We brought in 3 good potential defenders, but they're all like, they all can't shoot, and they all have just as big of problems on the offensive end as we need to fix defense, of course, but like that doesn't help us overall. So I don't understand how that applies or how it makes sense with anything he says.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's scary. I don't even know what to say. Like, I've kind of already exhausted all my opinions on this deal, but, I mean, we'll just wait. Honestly, at this point,
I just wanted to frame it in terms of, like, the next move, you know?
Yeah, at this point, I'm just in wait-and-see mode for that next move. Like, I don't even care to get into it with people anymore. I don't care to argue why it doesn't make sense. Like, I feel like most of the fan base realizes that it doesn't really make much sense. From the most part, I've seen in terms of the reaction has been negative towards the trade. So, there's always going to be people that try and spin things a certain way or have certain opinions on it, and maybe don't understand the trade or, have an inflated opinion of Justice Winslow. Just hopefully that's not Joe Cronin. So at this point, we'll just wait and see what the follow-up move is. That's all we can do at this point, and it's not like we're going to have to wait for long. We only have less than 5 days until the trade deadline. It's like 4.5 days until the trade deadline, so we'll see. Got a couple games between now and then. We'll obviously discuss any new rumors or any trades that go down, and then we'll have the trade deadline stream as we normally do.
Yep.
So, anyway, we'll get our Twitter space started. I'm going to have Zach start that, so give us a minute for that, and then we'll take your calls. I want to keep it a little bit shorter today, maybe like 3-4 callers. We're going to give preference to people who tried to call in yesterday and couldn't. Just because we didn't have enough time. We streamed for like 6 hours yesterday. So, Zach, if you're watching, can you start in the Twitter space, and then we'll hop in. Chris S., $5 dono. Thank you, Chris. He says, thanks for the long streams this week, guys. When do you think we'll sign Watford to a full NBA contract, and what contract would you want to give him? Eric, I'll let you answer that.
Well, we currently cannot sign Watford to a full contract because we don't have an extra roster spot after the trade yesterday, so that's another bummer of that. My idea was to use part of the mid-level exception that we did not use to sign him to the actual roster after we got far enough under the tax to do so, but unfortunately without another move that clears some more salary, we're not going to be far enough under the tax, and then we also don't have a roster spot. I guess we could. I hope this doesn't happen, but if like one of the players we just acquired gets stretched or something, like a Bledsoe, we stretch him and have that dead money on our books for several years instead of just eating his contract this year, be really stupid, but I guess they could create some space that way under it. But yeah, my idea was to sign him for like a 3-year, $6 million deal, kind of similar to the Kenrick Williams deal in Oklahoma City. Just to have him on our books for 3 years, and then I think we'd still retain his restricted free agency rights since he's a rookie this year after those the next 2 years after this one.
Yep.
But we do have some. I mean, we can make him a restricted free agent, but we do kind of risk some things this summer. Like if a team really likes him and gives him like $5 million a year or something, we do risk him leaving and not. Or declining to match a contract for him. So I would like to get him wrapped up, give him, like I said, a little bit of extra money, not a lot, but just a little bit over the minimum just to incentivize him for signing for 3 seasons. And that's how I would do it.
Yep. Anyway, let's jump into the Twitter space. Eric?
All right.
We'll take callers. We'll start off with Kyle Wilson because he was trying to hop in here for a while yesterday. I forgot to tell him that, you have to be on mobile app in order to call in. So that's... I don't know why. I don't know why you're not able to call in on computer. I assume Twitter is going to maybe change that in the future, but I don't know. Maybe they prefer it to be on mobile. I don't really understand why that would be, though. But that's how it works. So you got to be on mobile to call in. There you go. You're muted on Skype. Eric, let's start off with... Let me go back here. Let's start off with Kyle Wilson. You're being added as a speaker as we speak, Kyle. Just to anybody calling in, try not to swear. Other than that, we'll take your questions or your opinions. Go ahead, Kyle.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So yeah, sorry I couldn't call in yesterday. It's a little bit of an issue with my one-day-old Twitter account. So thanks for getting me back into something I had sworn off for all eternity.
I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. Oh my goodness. So I can't even begin to describe the level of anger that I had. It almost took me out of my job because we weren't even supposed to be on our phones while we were at work, and my phone started buzzing off the hook saying we traded Powell and Rocco for Keon and those guys, and I was just like, that can't be right. Like that's not anywhere near enough value. They're both worth at least a first round pick each.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really wanted to get off my chest was.
Oh, I think you there? You lag out? right when he said, the thing I want to get off my chest, it lags out. Kyle, hello?
Roster more balanced so that we can compete in the future or some lines.
Kyle, you lagged out at the start of, like, you said, let me get this off my chest, and then you lagged out for like 5-10 seconds, so just restart that thought. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, like, I was reading his Cronin's comments about this being like a roster balancing move and trying to be more competitive for the future and all this stuff. The thing that I was just shaking my head at was, I was like, everyone in the media and Blazerland and all that stuff have been saying that the roster as currently constructed isn't good enough to win a title or even really get there. Whether you agree with that or not, that was the opinion by most. And what we just did essentially is we took two of our starters, in Groko and Powell, turned them into two, at best, end of the bench guys, and one guy who at best is going to be possibly a first guy off the bench in like 4 years, maybe, and a second round pick in 2025 when Dame's going to be like 35.
Yeah.
How exactly is that supposed to be making us into a competitor in the near future? That just doesn't make any sense.
Kyle, the cap flexibility, man. You forgot the cap flexibility.
Oh, right, the cap flexibility. That's why no one ever comes here. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because he also mentioned like building through free agency, and I was like, yes, because that's why we only got Evan Turner in 2016. I remember that.
Oh no, we got Festus Ezeli too. Remember?
Actually, I don't remember because he never played.
Exactly.
Good. The cap flexibility that we do not have still, because we're still technically right at or over the cap, and will definitely be over the cap if we keep Nurkic and Ant.
It just baffles my mind, guys. I really wish I could come in here and be the eternal optimist, and say like, oh, I have total faith in this all working out, and I couldn't even get a championship in 2K after this. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough,
Yeah,
man.
it's frustrating. Very frustrating.
I don't even have anything else to say about it anymore, because it's just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's really all I can say about it at this point. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, the disappointing thing is, like, I mean, Cronin himself said, oh, you have to be very creative and utilize this. Like, you have to look at other teams' rosters and figure out what they want and help them get that and all that stuff. Well, the dude did that, but didn't think about his own frickin' roster. He helped out another team without the other part of it, which is you're supposed to get something out of that trade too, dude. Like, and that's the most frustrating part to me, is he helped out a Western Conference competitor to be a much tougher foe the next few years.
He helped out an LA team. I mean, helping out an LA team in Portland is the equivalent of opening the gates of Troy for the Greeks. I mean, it's just like, you don't do it.
Yeah. The way he went at fans today is what really bothers me today, because like everything in terms of the trade I kind of got off the chest yesterday, but telling the fans they should just trust him, I mean, okay, we'll see, fine, sure, I'll give you your chance, but it's like, you can't, the criticism's well placed, so he can prove us wrong. It's like, just don't talk about it, be about it. You don't gotta tell the fans to shut them up, go make a great trade, shut them up through your actions, right? Because you don't got to say it.
Yeah.
Well, it's really it's really tone deaf for him to come out after this offseason and talk to us about how we need to have trust. No, we don't. You guys, you guys haven't done anything to warrant trust. I mean, let's think about it. We have an owner who's got sexual harassment allegations on her plate. Mm-hmm. You've got a coach who's got sexual assault allegations in his past, and your GM for almost a decade in the entirety of Dame's career has been an egotistical, insert cuss word here.
Yeah.
who has, pushed some employees to the brink of suicide in some cases. So it's like, what exactly has that done? And all of that so you can get swept by the Warriors in like 3 straight postseasons. And the Pelicans
the part of that quote was like, what did he say? Trust the front office that has built a playoff team the past so-and-so years. It's like, dude, more than half the teams in the league play. The most average team in the league makes the playoffs. So, like, if you're an average team, you're celebrating that and saying that we should trust you because you've been able to, like, the guy above you and your front office has been able to manufacture an average team, right? Because it's like we made one Western Conference Finals in those 8 seasons. Like, it's not like we had a ton of playoff success. That whole quote really, really bothered me and has me really kind of nervous because it seems like he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Small mindset. All I can say to that, just small mindset, aiming for the absolute floor. I mean, it's like that is a mindset you take when you take over like the Kings or the Magic. That is, or the Mariners.
He wasn't supposed to be that guy.
Northwest.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be like the guy that's like, oh, we got to raise the ceiling of this team. We got to have higher ambitions, right? Like, that's kind of how he portrayed it in his introductory press conference or his conversation. But, how does this raise the ceiling? What is the follow-up that raises the ceiling? I mean, we'll see, but it just seems like I don't know. Like, I don't get good vibes from this trade and this guy at this point. I'm nervous.
Yeah, and last thing before I let you get on to the next person, but I mean, this guy how long was he with us? 16 years before he got this gig.
Yeah,
it was 2006. Yep.
Yeah, so we put all of our, and this kind of, going back on us a little bit, just being self-deprecating. We really shouldn't have trusted the cap expert who was in charge during 2016 to lead us anywhere, because. Why would we ever trust someone who looked at Evan Turner and Alan Crabb and thought, oh, yeah, they should make $150 million combined? That makes sense.
Hey, I figured it out, Tori and Kyle. I know what happened.
What?
You know how when he was hired, we heard that story about how he took the CBA book everywhere and read it on planes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how we heard that?
How?
We did hear that, right? So
yeah.
I think he forgot to read the new CBA when it came out a couple years ago. So this is what he probably made this trade with Bledsoe thinking he could trade him to another team and they could not have to pick up his guaranteed contract and they could waive him at the end of
he could do that.
And they could waive him and be the $3.9 million. Like maybe he is sitting there thinking, wow, this is such a great trade piece in the offseason because I could do that because he's still reading the old book before that rule changed.
I think it was actually he was reading the Los Angeles Angels and Los Angeles Dodgers copy of the CBA. Just spend, but don't worry about defense. We'll figure that out later.
Eric, you got to make Eric, can I talk? You got to make the distinction that you can't do that in the offseason because he can still do it before the trade deadline. He can still trade him for the trade deadline, and then that team can then waive him in the offseason and only owe him $4 million. But you can't do that in the offseason. Like, that's the distinction, yeah.
I forgot what player we had. What player was that? Was it Ariza that had like a... Yeah, he had like a... You could pick it up, and it was, 10 or 11 million, but you could waive him for 2 million or something, right?
Yeah.
And that was after the rule change. So I corrected several people, cap experts online, that said that was going to be our plan this summer, was to trade him to a team and take on a contract from another team. And then that player would then accept Ariza, but then waive him and only pay him his $2 million. But that rule is now out the door in pretty much all scenarios, unless like maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder could do that, but there's no reason why they would take on salary, so that makes no sense.
Yeah,
so,
because they have cap space.
So the team that acquires Bledsoe would have to guarantee his contract. But before this rule change a few years ago, you used to be able to take a player like Bledsoe, trade him for someone making $20 million next season in the offseason, and then that team could just waive him and only pay him his non-guaranteed portion of $3.9 million. and then save all that $16 million out of in cap space for that summer's free agency. But now how it works is if you trade Bledsoe in the offseason to another team, they'd almost certainly have to guarantee a salary for that season, so it would be a wash. But maybe he's still reading his old CBA book, and that's what he thinks the rule still is. That's the only way I can explain like what he's thinking. Maybe, but maybe he thinks that's some great asset that's not going to happen now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the. God, Eric. I mean, how do you, as an owner, because like Jody doesn't know this stuff, how do you vet that? How do you know that they truly know that type of stuff?
I don't know.
I assume that he knows that type of stuff. Like, I feel like we're just kind of joking around here, but
I know, joking.
Yeah. But like some people will take this and think that we're being completely serious. I mean, it's such a mind-boggling trade that's almost like you got to make jokes about it because that's the only way you can even like see any logic in it, because this trade was just purely illogical, and maybe he proves me wrong and, saw something that nobody else saw, and at that point then I will say, you know what, I was wrong to criticize him and own up to it. But until that happens, I mean, this trade just purely makes zero sense. And
I'll tell you what, laughing's better than crying. That's all I can say.
yeah, I'm trying to get to that stage of laughter. But
I'm a Beaver fan. I've been at that stage.
Yeah. I'm a Mariners fan. Usually this is supposed to be the Mariners.
So am I.
That's it.
So am I. I was born with the worst possible fan bases.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough. But I mean, it's bad when the other what was it? Jerry West that had the quote today, Eric?
No, it was the other one.
Lawrence Frank.
Frank, yeah.
It's bad when the other team is saying we didn't even think it was realistic to get Norman Powell.
A player of his caliber on the contract, the type of contract he's on, where we have him for several more years and we have him locked in. He was saying like we didn't even think that was going to be possible, and yeah, we had people, Blazer fans, trying to say like, oh, he was a negative asset. No, we got lucky to get rid of him.
A negative asset. Meanwhile, I had friends of mine who were saying for the entirety of Alan Crabb's time in Portland that he was a positive asset on the team and that he was a future all-star.
I mean, well, your friend must have been smoking crack or something, because I don't remember anybody saying that, so that dude was way out there. But yeah,
that's pretty much what I was saying.
I mean, it's just people search to try and justify this trade, and I just don't agree with that. Like, Norman Powell's not a bad contract, and the guy trading for him said he was a great contract, so that should put that to rest, hopefully. Anyway, anything else you got, Kyle?
Not really, just sad that, the team, out of all my teams, the one that's worst run is the team that's been in the playoffs the most.
Yeah, it's like somehow the Blazers became that team for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Beaver baseball starts in 2 weeks, so I'll finally. Please don't let us lose that. If we lose that, we really don't have anything going for us.
Yeah, I still got Gonzaga, so they're still in. Mariners have a bright future next year. Hopefully, our Mariners can make some noise. But anyway,
I'm just waiting for the inevitable downfall with the Mariners. It always happens.
Yeah, but at least you expect it. You know what I mean? So at least this year there's some hope, but it's tempered hope because you know who you're dealing with in terms of that team. So anyway, good to finally talk to you, man. Good to technically meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you guys.
Yeah, have a good rest of your night, man.
All right, see you, man.
All right, next speaker we're going to bring Rich Finley in here. There's a little bit more delay since Zach started this based on the Blazers Uprise account, so I'm adding him as a speaker, and then we'll get going. What's going on, Rich? You're now live on the Blazers Uprise post-game show. Are you there?
If you unmute.
Yeah. It gets finicky with being muted at first and whatnot. So, I always try and time it up when people can actually speak, but it gets kind of glitchy, so. Rich. Hello. I'm assuming Rich isn't here. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know. What do you want to do, Eric?
We'll try again later, Rich. Sorry, we're not hearing you.
Let us know in chat if something glitched out on your end or you were trying to talk. I don't know what happened. Anyway, let's move on to Billy Bob Anon. we'll throw him in here, and hopefully his mic and everything will work.
What's up, guys?
What's up,
I'm
man?
sorry. Get in so early.
What'd you say?
I was eating. I didn't expect to get in so early. My bad.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the last guy had some technical difficulties. It's all good, man. What's going on?
I was scarfing that salmon down because I realized he wasn't coming, so I was like shoving it.
And then we went to you. I didn't even hear anything like that. So you just outed yourself for no reason.
It's all good, man. I'm not tripping. But,
Do you wait? Do you have a fire alarm that needs a new battery too?
Is it? I think I opened it. Hold on, where is it at? Yeah, it was bothering me, so I just opened it. But...
Eric, well, you got to buy 2 9-volt batteries now.
Yeah, I think that's us. It's
still waiting on mine.
You're still waiting on yours, Zach? So Zach's...
Where you live, Bob? Do you need me to drive you over a 9-volt battery? You got one?
My dad and I both smoke hookah, so like it'll just go off in the middle.
Gotcha. Well, Zach was on a previous space. I don't know if you saw it, and his fire alarm was going off in the background, like beeping like that. So, Eric offered to bring him a 9-volt battery. So I guess, we're just kind of, I don't know. The fire alarms are going off. I hate those. I can't sleep
trademark.
with
You gotta have a fire alarm segment on the show.
Yeah, I guess.
When a really bad trade goes off, the fire alarm segment.
I don't know. There it is. I don't know how y'all deal with it. But anyway, Blazer talk. What you got for us, man?
I was gonna ask about the trade, but at this point, I don't want to, relive Uncle Ben's murder 1,000 times. It's like it was a bad trade. Move on with it. But, I wanted to ask about Anthony Simon specifically. How much of his production recently is the Kendrick Nunn effect? Because there was that entire year where he was a rookie and he had amazing year. People went in and did the math and goes, on lottery teams he's really beating up on them, but on any team above 500, his production just drops. So I did that for Anthony, and that's probably not fair given the sample size, but I think this was right after the Miami game. I went in and I did the numbers, and it was against every team above 500. He was 20 points per game, 43% from the field, and 40% from the field, and 33% from three. And that's with me adding the Brooklyn game, and they have a pretty bad defense, all things considered. How much of it is just, I remember Giannis had a quote where we were talking about Cleveland after they lost. And he goes, we have to scout them better, but it's not the Cleveland of old. How much is just us rolling into a town 7 games below 500, and guys just they're not going to watch film on Anthony Simons. They're just not going to do it. How much of Anthony's growth is that versus genuine he's a good player now?
That's a phenomenal question. I think that part of it might be he's never played this heavy of minutes this consistently at all in his career, so it could be a little bit of long-term fatigue for him. It's also, you look at who he's playing against, and he's not a guy that can just carry a team without much talent around him yet. If he was, he would be an NBA All-Star, right? You put a healthy Dame in his position, and Dame could carry this team and still have good games, but I don't think Anthony is there yet. So I wouldn't say don't put any stock into how he was playing against Brooklyn and whatnot. CJ hasn't really helped him a whole lot in the past couple of games, and teams trying to win, there might be some truth to they're gonna scout him a little bit more, and he's not a guy who's been scouted that heavily throughout his career, and guys might be familiar with him, but just remember him just being a shooter last year. So Eric, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that, because that's a really good question.
One is usually the teams with the better record usually have better defense, so I don't know if that's that big of an outlier. Like you mentioned, there's always teams like Brooklyn who are good with a bad defense, and there's always bad teams like Oklahoma City has, I think they're 13th or something in defensive rating, so not bad either. So that kind of stuff, I wouldn't read too much into that particularly, but I think what it was some of these teams got, the first few starts Anthony had, excuse me.
Bless you.
The first few starts Anthony had, teams didn't know he was that capable of running a team and playmaking, and he was getting anywhere he wanted in the paint, stuff like that. So after a few games of that, teams then started adjusting the defense. They have that extra defender at the free throw line, so if he drives, there's someone there. That Dame gets that same treatment as well. So Ant has to learn how to get by that guy instead of just getting a line drive if he beats his guy to the hoop. So it's just little stuff like that. The encouraging thing for me is I don't necessarily care how he's shooting. I care about how he's learning from, like, in a game where a team double teams him. And we saw in the second half of several games where he got a lot of pressure and he kind of faltered in those situations, right? But I felt like since he had like 2 or 3 of those games, he's been increasingly better each time he sees a double team or pressure. So I just want to see him learn on the court, and that's why I think it's so important to give him all that experience this year, because especially with young players who have never had that kind of responsibility before in the NBA, they need as many reps and as many different types of defenses and as many different game plans for them as they can see to improve and have that film to get better in the offseason. And then he could go back and look at all these different defenses he was thrown at him. So to me, it's not really discouraging to see him struggle against any of these defenses. That's fine. It's how he then processes all that information to becoming a better player in future years from that. So as long as he doesn't have this problem 2 or 3 years down the road or next year, like he's still having trouble every time he gets double teamed, if he uses that information that he's gained this year to then spend the offseason working on those kind of things to get better, which by all accounts he's told Chauncey Billups to be super hard on him and just like let him know everything that he's doing wrong. And so, like, I just love his attitude right now, and I think it's going to benefit him in the future, and I'm not really worried about how it looks right now. It's how he learns from it.
Okay, I was curious because I don't think, you said future years. I don't think we have 2 years. I think Dame's going to be as healthy as he'll ever be next year, as rested as he'll ever be next year. And maybe it's just the communities and the circles that I'm in, but the way people talk about Anthony, it's like, okay, let's go. Dame, Anthony backcourt, Western Conference Finals, let's make a run. CJ has his problems, but I think CJ's skill in a vacuum is capable of being part of a deep run. It's just that his contract is structured in a way that makes it impossible to cover up a lot of his flaws, and his flaws are pretty glaring. And I think if we get rid of CJ, CJ has the ability to break down defender right in front of him, get a bucket when the offense is stalling, and we rely on Anthony to do that. I think we're just going to be disappointed. It could be in 2-3 years, but I just don't think Dame has 2-3 years in his window left.
Well, do you want to answer that, Tori?
No, you've been answering it well. I honestly wouldn't even change anything that you've said.
So here's what I'll say to that. One is, when you talk about with Dame, the responsibility changes a little bit, right? So Dame obviously takes over that responsibility, whereas with Ant and CJ, what we've noticed since CJ come back is CJ hasn't really necessarily taken that too much responsibility from Ant. We saw a game the first time we played OKC, they start with Dort on Ant instead of CJ. And I forgot what other game. There was a game right around there where the other team's best defender started on Ant instead of CJ, and CJ got hot in the first quarter or whatever. So it's but with Dame, that's not going to happen. And if it does, Dame's going to take over those games and make them pay, right? So I don't think it's necessarily a point where we're going to have to wait a couple of years. I'm just saying, Ant might not be fully all-star level next year, but the gap between him and CJ I think is going to be negligible in as soon as next year. I think it already is getting close to that. Ant's proving that he can create his own shot. He can prove that he can get to the basket. He's actually showing that he might actually be a little more creative with his passes on those drives as well. So he's not only doing it for himself, but getting others involved. So I wouldn't worry too much about the timeline with Ant and Dame. I think having a younger, I'm not going to say he's better than CJ or anything, but he just seems to have a little more energy at this point in his career, and a little more eager to learn things and change and do whatever Chauncey needs him to do. And I also feel like he's improving a lot defensively to be a better defender than either of those two. And I wouldn't worry about the Dame and Ant part of it. And like you said, I also agree that Dame and CJ, I think, could have one here together. But let's just face it, it's going to come down to this team like it always has, getting a front court player help them both out, whether it's Dame and CJ or Dame and Ant or whatever the combo is. If we keep all three of them, it won't matter unless we get that game-changing forward that changes everything, and that's what we have to address. So I don't think it really matters who those guards are. I think we can win with any combination of them. But we've seen the Dame and CJ thing. I think it's time to let Ant show if he can get that growth there. But it's not going to matter if we don't get a quality forward somehow with one of these trades or in the draft or something. We need to get that forward somehow.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks for the answer. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, man, good to talk to you. All right. We got time for 2 or 3 more callers. It depends. We'll try and Rich again. Adding him as a speaker again. Hopefully his mic actually works this time. Rich, are you there? Hello, Rich.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us? He can't hear us, apparently. That's unfortunate.
We can hear you, Rich. Can you hear us?
Ah, shoot.
Yeah.
If you guys can hear me, I'm really sorry. I can't hear you. I wish I could call in.
Just ask your question. Ask your question.
Well, he can't hear you, Eric.
Shoot.
Anyway, yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't know why you couldn't hear us, Rich, but you can ask your question in chat. Just say it's Rich from the space. I'd be happy to answer your question, but obviously it's not working out for you at the moment. So we'll talk to Shervin and we'll talk to Ace, and then that'll wrap up our stream or our Twitter space. So let's add Shervin in here and see what Shervin has for us.
Before Shervin, I'd like to thank Shy Guy for becoming a starter member. Thank you.
Thank you, Shy Guy. Shervin, are you here? Hello. I added him. I don't know. It doesn't say he's been added yet. Let me try again. It's like glitching on my end, too. I don't know what's going on with the space right now. Won't even add Shervin. Eric, can you try adding Shervin as a speaker? All right. Well, did you try?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I guess I'll try and add Ace. Yeah, Shervin's gone now. I guess I'll try and add Ace and see if this works. Ace, you there, man?
Yeah.
What's up?
Hey, Ace, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. So I actually was watching you guys on YouTube. I subscribed to you. So one of your subscribers told me to jump in this because I didn't like the trade. But they told me to jump in because I made a comment in chat that basically said that I kind of see what the Blazers are doing.
Okay.
So I'm not really that upset. I mean, you can tell me if you disagree, but Eric said something about them getting a forward. I'm pretty sure they're grabbing. I haven't watched college basketball this year, but I'm pretty sure they're getting that power forward, that white kid. I don't know his
Chet
name.
Holmgren, you think they want him?
I do.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but here's my question. What does that have to do with this trade?
No, well, I didn't know we were just talking about the trade.
Oh, I mean, we can talk about whatever. We can talk about whatever.
I know the trade was necessarily not good, but I'm just saying overall, like from a overall plan standpoint, I'm pretty sure they're going to trade CJ and try, like, one of you guys said the forward thing. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what they're getting for CJ, but, I mean, if they get the kid and they get some sort of superstar from a trade, I mean, I think they're good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where it's like if they have good follow-up moves, then those follow-up moves are good. You know what I mean? It's not a situation where if they make a good move, I'm going to sit here and say that it's a bad move simply because I don't like the initial trade they made. But that's the thing, is like every move is separate unless like is a situation where they're able to flip Keon Johnson into something, or able to flip Bledsoe into something somehow and find a GM that overvalues those guys. So, it's a situation where maybe my perception of Cronin could be better if he pulls off some better moves, but at this point, like, if he pulls off a good CJ trade, that's a good CJ trade. That doesn't make this Norman Powell, Robert Covington trade good. It's a situation where this trade, I think they just could have gotten back a lot more in terms of assets for both those guys, which would have made it easier for future follow-up moves.
Yeah, in my opinion...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, in my opinion, yeah, the obvious plan would be to hope you get a top 3 pick, but they could lose every game the rest of the season, have a chance at the best odds for that pick, and still fall to like 5th or 6th, and then not have a chance at Chet Holmgren or whoever their target is. So that, as OKC found out last year, they tried to tank the whole season and then end up with the 6th pick or something like that. So that didn't work out for them, and they didn't get one of the top picks. They were hoping to get a Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley or someone like that, and that didn't work out for them. So I don't think you can have that be your plan. And if that is your plan as a GM, you either have to get super lucky that it comes to fruition, or it's really stupid to plan that way. So yeah, they could of course be hopeful that they get one. There's actually 3 good power forwards expected to be the top 3 picks. So if we get any one of those, it could completely change the future. But the problem is we don't have a guaranteed chance to do that, even if we're as bad as possible.
Yeah, I agree with both of those statements. I mean, as far as the OKC thing, I mean, I think it still worked out for them because Giddey's nice. But you can still get lucky and get like Scotty Barnes, the 4th pick, that was a good pick by Toronto and stuff. Like, you can still do good picks, of course. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of optimistic. I mean, as far as the roster thing, I didn't like O'Shea either, but I mean, like, I watched, like I said, all your videos and stuff, and I've seen everything. I was one of those optimistic guys at the start of the season, even though we don't necessarily have a super team. I'm like, well,
you and me both.
we should still kind of go for it because Lakers have injuries and Jamal Murray is hurt. And, if any season you would have wanted to kind of make a run for it, it would be this season. If Golden State is having a resurgence or whatever you want to say, you take advantage of the situation. Because you like you said, you have Dame, so it's like, oh, every team in the Western Conference is hurt. Let's make a run for it. But now, it's kind of over. So I mean, so I'm just looking for some sort of insight because, like I said, I can kind of see what they're trying to do. But like you said, I mean, lottery wise, it might not work out. But I mean, hopefully in their case, it kind of does. Because I mean, like you were telling the guy earlier, the Dame Ant backcourt works. I mean, if CJ's your most tradable asset at this moment, you move him or whatever. I don't like the stupid Mavericks trades. All these articles are kind of doing, but because draft pick and all this other stuff, it's like I don't even think the draft pick would be that good. But so I don't know. I think if they can get a top 3 pick, cool. But I mean, if they can, I guess screw it. I don't know what their direction is if they're not doing that. So
I actually have something to share about this initial trade that I just heard, so I'll share that after the space. But yeah, I kind of have something.
Okay, so, I was gonna say one more thing. So I did put something else in the chat, not to cut you off, if I by any means. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I did make one more comment to that guy that told me to jump on this. They actually got a trade exception for that trade.
Yeah, it's just $6.5 million. So
well, yeah, I know. I know.
Big, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, in order for this to work now, we have to hit a home run in the CJ trade and get a starter level player that's better than anything we've had in the past few years, right? Yep. Which is, I guess, still possible. There's still some players out there that qualify for that. And also get that top pick. So if we added a quality small forward or center, or a center better than Nurkic at least, and then we also get lucky in the draft and get one of those power forwards, then maybe this could all come together even with making some bad moves too. It just, unfortunately, I think our margin for error got a lot smaller with this move yesterday, and that's the most disappointing part.
You don't want Nurk?
No, I do want Nurk. I'm just saying, like, we have to if we don't improve the small forward and power forward spot, then the only other spot we can improve then it would be the center, getting a better center than Nurk, which is I really like Nurk. I don't know if that's really possible. Like a Miles Turner, I think he's better at other things, but I don't think he's necessarily overall better for a Dame and Ant backcourt because he doesn't pass as well and he doesn't rebound as well. So it kind of it makes other problems that aren't problems right now with this team. So I don't think that's enough of a game-changing move, but obviously if we got a better player at any of those 3 positions, it would help us. It's just going to be hard to do that. And you have to hit a home run on both the draft and the CJ trade.
Okay, I have one more question. You don't like the idea of Nas starting either?
I really like Nas. I love Nas actually, but I'd be fine with him being the small forward of the future if he improves his 3-point shot a little bit. But it's just disappointing that he got hurt this year because he could have really used these last 28 games to work on his game and get some reps like we talked about with Ant a few minutes ago. So I would have no problem with that as the plan. I just think overall our rotation has to be a lot better in terms of our forward rotation. And if he's definitely a part of that,
I think so too.
At this point, he's best off as the starting small forward or coming off the bench. But I'm fine with that either way. And of course, he could prove me wrong and be just come back like gangbusters and be great next year. Hopefully that's the case. But
so I think that too. He just seems like the prototypical small forward that we've been kind of looking for a long time. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, thank you for calling in, man. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, have a good night.
You too.
All right, so Shervin's trying to call in again since he was next up, before Ace. So I'm gonna take Shervin's call, and then that'll be it as far as speakers. It's first come, first serve. We have time for one more, and then I'll share something I've heard. Shervin, is it working now? Yeah, you're here as a speaker, so I assume so. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, man. What you got for us tonight?
Hey, Shervin.
Hey, I was just thinking.
Shervin's so defeated.
Yeah, I'm just down bad. I don't know what to say anymore. But I was thinking, what did Joe Cronin say to Dame to convince him that this is good for his chances to win?
Let me just say, I don't think Cronin. I don't know if Cronin wanted to make this deal. Let me just say that. That's a little teaser. But, I don't know. I don't think Cronin was trying to convince Dame of anything.
So you don't even think he consulted anything? He just did this trade without telling him?
Well, do you have any other questions? Because that's actually what I'm going to get into.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like in a video or something?
No, after the space.
Right. Oh, I got you.
Sure, yeah.
No, because, I mean, I don't know. Because I can't imagine, he looks at this on paper and he's like, I'm trying to win next year. And this dude is trading.
This was not a trade to win at all.
I know, but it's like, Dame, imagine you're Dame. This dude got you Eric Bledsoe.
I don't think Dame was on board with this. That's all I'm going to say on that.
No way. There's no way.
But yeah, what else you got for us?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys think Ant? I mean, he doesn't have as much freedom recently within the offense. He's just spotting up sometimes. They're not letting him get the ball.
I think he has freedom. I wouldn't say that he doesn't have freedom.
I feel like he's getting shots. I don't think it's he's not really running the offense like he used to.
Yeah, I think that's it. This is no fault of CJ's, because I mean he's a decent player in his own right, but there's something about being the unquestioned man on offense, right? And every time you dribble up the court, it's your duty to run the offense. But then when you have someone else, it's like, oh, is it his turn to run this play, or am I going to be off ball this play, or am I going to be running pick and roll, or is this CJ's turn to run pick and roll and stuff like that? Like I said, it's not either one's fault. But so I think it's pretty obvious Ant does better if he's the guide right now, and that's good for his development. But at the same time, if we're talking about him and Dame, he's going to have to learn how to be just as good in this role too. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that he's having this process right now. So hopefully that works out for him because he's going to have to learn to play both ways. I just think right now, obviously, it looks better when he's running pick and roll every time with Nurk, and he knows he's going to be having the full control of the offense every time down the court.
Yeah, I don't really think it's comparable though, because I mean, when he's playing next to Dame, like Dame's gonna get double teamed, he's gonna get picked up 35 feet out. Like CJ he's not even getting defended by their best perimeter defender. Like he's not getting double teamed. He doesn't create advantages. Like Dame, it's way different dynamic with Dame.
Yep. Well, I think Tori wants to get to his information. So if you're watching the stream, we're going to end the space and we'll answer your first question on there.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Thank you for calling in, everyone.
Yeah. Later.
All right. So, Zach, go ahead and end the space, of course. Eric, hop back in here. So, give me a sec. So there were definitely other deals for Powell that were better. But apparently this was a situation where Cronin has no control. And Burt Cold and Jody Allen panicked and wanted to make sure to get under the tax right now. That's what I heard.
But the New Orleans trade would have got us $12 million
That's
under
the
the
part that
tax.
doesn't make sense. But apparently, I don't know. I don't know where the missing part there was, but...
Well, here's the missing part. But it creates another thing that doesn't make sense. Other than, I guess maybe the Clippers couldn't have matched salary without Bledsoe, so this wouldn't have worked to get under the tax. So, yeah, okay. They panicked and wanted to get under the tax, right? I've heard that maybe we had an agreement with Powell to try to get him to somewhere he wanted to be versus trade him to whatever is best for us. And that was part of the agreement of him re-signing in Portland, is that at some point we would probably look to him kind of like OKC and Paul George.
Yeah.
And we know he wanted to be in LA. He's from LA. The Lakers didn't make sense to do it, but so maybe that was the reason why we didn't trade him to the Pelicans, because he didn't want to play in New Orleans. Which would obviously be on Neil, and I guess there's nothing saying we would have had to do that. I guess it would have made him and his agent mad, but it's still no excuse for doing a dumb trade if we had better offers.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like as far as this situation went, this wasn't Cronin's doing. So I don't know if he has the freedom to pursue whatever CJ trade he wants now that they're under the tax. But if he does, with the prerequisite that they stay under the tax, then I wouldn't necessarily expect a bad deal. I wouldn't necessarily expect, him to sell CJ for a really crappy trade necessarily. But I mean, this trade was fishy from the get-go, and there's still parts of it that don't make sense even with hearing that. But the timing of it makes more sense, because there's no way you take a deal this bad this long before the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Unless, I guess, you panic as ownership and it's like, we got to get under luxury tax no matter what. Right? But if, like, you prematurely pull the trigger on the crappy trade, you know, just because you're like, screw it, we don't care, we just need to get under the tax, then you need to sell the freaking team. I understand wanting to get under the tax, but, like, there was seemingly multiple other avenues to do so with better deals. So this is a situation where Jody needs to sell the freaking team ASAP. Like, that's the point we're at with this. And
I still don't think it makes sense, though, because, I mean, why? I mean, I could come up with like three trades for every team that would get us under the tax and accomplish the same thing, only trading one of those guys.
Yeah, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me either. Which, like, maybe wanting to trade Powell to a place he wants to go was part of it. Right, because he re-signed with us. But it's like, at that point, it's like, why would you put that in with the prerequisite, like, okay, well, we could trade you wherever, and we're not even going to give any value for you anyway. Like,
and why include Rocco in that? Like,
yeah, why is Rocco in that? Exactly.
Like I said, like Macklemore because I don't think the contracts didn't match. Clippers wouldn't have really had any way to match without including Bledsoe. And that meant we had to include Rocco to get under the tax. So maybe that's as simple as that. And they were just that dumb to think that that was the best way to get under the tax. But that's just if Cronin really doesn't have any authority, I mean, he shouldn't even have presented that trade to Jody, which goes back to the Microsoft thing that maybe Ballmer spoke directly to Jody about it.
Yeah. I mean, apparently other GMs were extremely confused by this trade. Just like we were. So yeah, I mean, it's at the point where I'm not going to criticize Cronin anymore. Knowing this, I don't know if he was behind this or not, right? And you guys don't have to believe what I say, but I mean, this makes more sense than anything. Like, it was just a panic trade, because this trade screams panic trade. There is no reason to make this deal now, and this deal does not set them up for a better follow-up move. It just doesn't. Like, it doesn't set them up to be able to make a trade. They can obviously flip Bledsoe for something, but they could have legitimately, like, traded Norm and Snell and Macklemore to the Pelicans and brought nothing back. Because I think those two guys are on minimum, so they didn't have to match those guys' salary. And that would have been more outgoing salary than trying to flip Bledsoe, right? And you would have gotten a better asset back. So that would have made more sense in order to bring something else back from a third team than just trading outright for Bledsoe and then trying to flip him when you can't combine his salary with other salaries. So this trade made no logical sense. And now, like, given some of the things, like, you know, some of the things that we've heard, we're starting to kind of understand maybe how this went down. But there's still things that don't make sense. But at least it makes a little bit more sense now. And I just pray that Cronin didn't have a say in this. And I pray that, you know, I mean, as an interim GM, there's been questions about how much control will he actually have as the interim GM of this team. So, you know, if he had no control in that situation, hopefully he has control for the rest of the trade deadline with the prerequisite that they stay under the tax. That's kind of where the situation is at for me. Either way, this team needs to be sold ASAP. Hopefully this offseason. I don't count on it happening. I think this is just a paycheck for Jody. And I'm sure she, you know, like, wants the team to win. I mean, I don't know why she goes to every game. I'm sure she probably, you know, wants to see the team do well and whatnot, but it seems like money is like the first priority in that, and that's what won out. So, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts, Eric? Or should I read the donos?
Go ahead and read the dono before I respond.
Okay, shout out to Shy Guy. Or no, you already thanked him. Shout out to Jalil for a $20 dono. He says, I have to donate on your guys' behalf. Have a couple of pints, fellas. Jody Allen, the mastermind in this. Good grief. Appreciate it, Jalil. Yeah, it's not good. Even if that's the case, I don't think it's any better because, I mean, it's ownership and I don't know.
Thanks, Jalil, though.
Yeah, it's not it's not a good situation. I don't really know what their plan is long term, but like it could have been a situation where they leveraged this job against Cronin to get him to go along with it. I mean, at that point, it's like, because if you make this trade, it doesn't look good on Cronin, right? So it's like, how is he going to be able to get a job after this if it's not with the Blazers? It's not, right? So, and this might be his only shot, so maybe that got leveraged against him. Appreciate the dono, Jalil. Shout out to Dro, $5 dono, says we need an owner who wants to be in Portland. In order to progress in anything, you have to take risks. Jody isn't for winning. She doesn't care. And I wouldn't go that far, but I think the number one priority was duck the luxury tax, even if it was a terrible trade. Like, like money's too much of a priority. It should have been a priority, but it could have been a priority along with making the best decisions in the best interest of the team. Yeah. And it seems like it wasn't.
Well,
go ahead.
I think, going back 2 years, right, to the Whiteside Scal trade deadline where we should have traded Whiteside to get under the tax, but we didn't, and then we kept him and we traded Scal and we didn't quite get under the tax. Maybe Jody has some trauma from that. Like maybe she was mad that Olshey maybe said he was going to make a trade to get under the tax and then didn't, so that when this trade got presented and Cronin was like, wait, we still have a week till the trade deadline, don't do this now, and Jody's like, I've heard that before, we need to get under the tax first and then you can do whatever you want. Either way, that means we have a puppet GM who can't do anything for himself, so what's the point? They basically hired him to control him. I don't know. And we have people who have no idea about trades or basketball making the trades then, so either way we're screwed, so it just sucks. Yeah, but I don't like how people are trying to justify it as some master plan, and then why would Cronin say that it, I would respect Cronin a lot more if he said, look, we had to make a trade to get under the tax. It wasn't necessarily the best move for us this year or in a basketball sense on the court, but it will help us not be a repeater team next year or something. Not try to say that it created cap flexibility and roster balance and all this crap.
Yeah. Yep. Such a weird situation, man. It's not ideal. Anyway, Rich Finley sent in his comments because we couldn't get him on the space, so I'll read them off. This is from Rich, who was trying to call in and his mic wasn't working. He said, anytime you can strengthen a rival, alienate the greatest player in franchise history, come away with no discernible assets, and obtain untraceable Microsoft stock options, you got to do it. You got to do it. That Ballmer connection, somebody was talking about how they're not necessarily friends or they had an issue between the two of them in the past, but that connection, that Microsoft connection, still is kind of the interesting link in all of this. Rich goes on to say, number 2, I can envision past the deadline we hear Cronin with the Olshey bingo. We were buyers, talked with a lot of teams, got very close on a couple of big things. Ultimately takes 2 to tango. We just really value our core of Dame, CJ, and Nurkic with pieces that can compete. Season tickets are now on sale. And honestly, here's the thing. If he has no say, he still has to try and spin it. Or ownership is still probably going to want him to spin it. So anything that Cronin says, I'm just like, I don't know if he even has any power, and it might just be him trying to spin it. And that's why his quote yesterday made no sense.
I guess we might need to watch the Nurk interview real quick. I guess
I saw one quote
questioning what's going on.
I don't. People can watch it after if they want. But Nurkic said, it was asked on the team direction. He said, "I would say interesting." So that was the Nurk quote. But then number 3 from Rich says, On Ant not having great numbers versus good teams when he starts, we are so undermanned. The good teams pull away from us, causing him to overextend himself and take lower percentage shots. Not a lot to be concerned about going forward. Much different with Dame there. That's also a good point to add to that conversation that we had earlier. So thank you, Rich. That was, would have been a good space call if your mic was able to work or didn't have the weird delay that you had or whatever. So I appreciate it. Anyway, did you have anything that you were going to say? Or?
Just kind of reading through chat here.
Yeah, I mean, we can. It's almost 2 hours, so I'm down to end the stream relatively soon.
Here's the deal, though. If there were other offers on the on the table, it still doesn't make sense for them to tell him to accept the trade. He would have to. I mean, you have to step in there and say, look, you are screwing us here. I have this trade. It'll get us under the tax to accomplish everything you want to do. I will accept this trade here, but please don't force me to do this and piss everyone off and ruin potentially any chance I have of building a team around Dame. You have to communicate that to your owner. And I mean, maybe he tried to do that and it still happened anyway. But I mean, what's the point of even having a GM if he's not going to be able to make a trade or anything? Or so just I don't know why he was allowed to hire an assistant GM then, or why we even have people in a front office or scouts or anything if the owner's just going to demand us to do a trade. So I'd have a hard time believing that's what actually happened. But in this situation with Portland, and I mean, it's dumb enough to actually be realistic, I guess.
Yep. Another nerd quote was, I feel okay about the long-term direction because Dame's here, and as long as Dame's still here, I know they'll be trying to win. That was another Nurkic quote from that. So, read into that how you want.
Yeah. The question is, because, yeah. I don't really know how to say this, but let's just say if they made this trade from the owner and no one else had any say when Dame, Billups, and Cronin have carefully been talking about their direction and path along with all the other staff and general manager assistants and all that kind of stuff there. If they all had been planning all these moves out carefully, talking about all these targets, teams they wanted to trade with, players they wanted to trade for, all these different offers, and what the next step to those offers would be, and then someone came in and be like, nah, screw all that, you have to do this trade. I don't understand where that would leave our franchise moving forward, or how we would get better for Dame, or why he would even want to be here.
I mean, I don't know, his loyalty might run beyond that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
his loyalty runs, and if it's a situation where they're, maybe they're really trying to tank and get a draft pick, and the players they brought in, they think will help them tank and get a draft pick. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but
let's say
these are questionable players.
Okay, we know we had better offers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say there was a player, I mean, I don't know who specifically, right? But let's say Josh Hart was someone that Dame has always respected and wanted to play with, right? And he was actually starting to get excited because, we might have to trade CJ, but it's a kind of a consolation because Josh Hart, he feels like is a guy who could really help this team on the defensive end get to where they are and complement him well or something, and is a little bigger than CJ, that kind of stuff. Maybe he was starting to talk himself into doing what's best for the team moving forward and getting excited about some of these options, and then we trade for frickin' Eric Bledsoe, like that. I don't know how I would feel, even if, I mean, I'm a pretty loyal guy as well, and I don't know how I would feel if my loyalty was just being it's almost like it's taken for granted by someone when just a few months ago they had to like basically beg him to stay, and I just don't know how he's going to feel about that. And at the same time, we don't even know if the team wants him here. So it's just
that's the biggest part is
because like honestly, it doesn't make sense to push him out. It just like come out and say you're gonna move on and rebuild and you want to go super young. Like that's it would suck, but at least you're coming out and being honest. I don't think it. I think it's much worse for them to do things behind the scenes because it'll come out eventually if that's what they're doing. And I just think this franchise, like much of the fan base, would turn on him if they purposely try to push Dame out versus them just admitting it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, even if they just admitted it and wanted to push him out, I still think the fan base would turn on them. Mm-hmm. It would be them running the franchise into the ground because not only did they get no assets for, Norm and Rocco because they make this panic trade, but then also the most loyal star in our franchise history and, maybe the best Blazer ever, and they trade him out. Like, that would be them running the franchise into the ground, in my opinion. That would be horrible. So, hopefully...
At MacMall, I don't know why I said at. MacMall in chat saying she's trying to disenfranchise the fans, so they're fine when a team moves. The team is not moving.
That's not a part
the
of
NBA
this.
is not going to allow them to move. I don't know how many times we have to say that. The team will not move out of Portland. They're not just going to sell the team and then the owner's going to move what happened with Seattle and OKC is just not going to happen. Okay, Seattle might get their own team, but they are not going to move the team out of Portland. The fan base has been way too loyal and passionate for too long. We even came back after the Jailblazer days and all that stuff. Attendance numbers were still in the top half of the league in attendance, even though it seems like no one's going to games or whatever.
We always have to explain this. Like, they're not moving the team. It's that simple.
Yeah.
They're gonna expand before they do that.
Yeah.
There's more money in expansion anyway. So that's just what it is. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
And the talent pool is really good too. Like they're going to expand 2 more teams pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, I would look with the new TV deal. Maybe it will become right around then, 2024, 2025. Anyway, and maybe Jody will wait to sell the team because she'll get a paycheck when they expand. No, every other owner gets paid when the league expands. So, this is not good. Anyway, let's go around the NBA if you're ready for that, Eric.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so 6 games on the slate today. The Grizzlies beat the Magic 135-115. The Suns take care of the Wizards 95-80. Miami's still battling for that top overall seed in the East. We'll look at the standings in a second. They take care of the Hornets 104-86. The Lakers beat the Knicks in overtime 122-115. Russell Westbrook had a terrible game in this game. RJ Barrett hit a tying 3 with 8 seconds left to push it into overtime, but the Knicks only scored 4 points in OT as they lose. The Blazers get blown out by the Bucks, and then in a battle of 2 tanking teams, the Kings beat the Thunder. So the Kings gain a game on us. We'll see where we are in the tank race. Actually, we're going to see that right now because here are the standings. Eric, we are only a game ahead of San Antonio for 12th. We are tied with New Orleans, 10th and 11th. And we're only a game and a half ahead of Sacramento for 13th. So
awesome.
The
Kings won. Yeah.
Got to fall down those standings. That's the only hope at this point. Anyway, Golden State's still battling with Phoenix for the 1 seed, and then Memphis is kind of all by themselves. Utah's still hanging on the 4th, but there's a few teams on their heels. Minnesota's sitting there in 7th. Good for them. Let's look at the East. Chicago and Miami is tied for the top seed. Brooklyn has lost 7 games in a row. They are about to end up in play-in territory. It's still very jam-packed there in the Eastern Conference. Actually, I forgot to do the Tankathon sim, so let's do that. Let's look at the Tankathon odds, because I don't know Yeah, it doesn't say we're tied for 8th with New Orleans, even though we are, because they've played 2 less games than us. But yeah, let me toss this up here for you guys, and we'll do the Tankathon sim and see if we can get lucky, see if we can get some positivity.
AJ, 1, why would they rig it so Portland got the first pick over any other team? And 2, the lottery is not rigged. It is not.
Let's stop with that type of talk. Anyway, here's the lottery sim. 14th, Charlotte. 13th, Atlanta. Charlotte's fallen all the way down to 9th in the Eastern Conference. That's crazy. So whoever's 13th moves up into the... oh, wow. You know who that is, I think, Eric? I think that's LA's pick. Washington's 12th. 11th is New York. 10th should be Portland, and we can never get lucky in this, Eric. 10th is Portland. 9th is New Orleans. 8th, San Antonio. 7th, Sacramento. Houston falls down 3 spots, and then Detroit. So let's reveal the top 4. 4th, OKC. So the Lakers pick, I think it's unprotected, is in the top 3.
It's going to go to New Orleans. It's top 10 for them. It goes to Memphis if it falls in if it would have stayed where it was at, yeah.
Yep, and there it is, to New Orleans, 3rd pick. So they get Banchero, Chet, or Jabari Smith most likely there at 3, and they would also have the 9th overall pick, so that would be a massive, massive win for the New Orleans Pelicans. Honestly, I want their 2022 first-round pick if the Lakers get lucky in the lottery, because New Orleans only gets it if it's 1 to 10. I would love it if we could somehow get that pick in a CJ trade, so that if something like this happens, we would have the Lakers' top 3 pick.
I don't think they can, because of the protections. Their other pick is also has protections on it, so I don't think you can word it in a way to where if they get one pick, the other one goes or whatever.
I think you can. Like, it's conveys to Portland if it's 1 through 10.
Yeah, maybe.
Because if it's 11 through 30, it conveys to Memphis. If it's 1 through 10, it conveys to New Orleans. I don't know why New Orleans couldn't word it where, like, okay, well then, if it's 1 to 10, it conveys to Portland. And then have a protection backup on that. So, I mean, honestly, that could maybe redeem it. I mean, imagine we got lucky with our pick and then had that pick. And, I mean, maybe we could get 2 top 4 picks. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's likely, though. I don't think New Orleans would part with that asset at all.
Well, what happens if they can't trade it?
I don't see why they couldn't.
Well, I mean, what happens if it goes to Memphis?
Then you'd have some sort of protection backup. Then New Orleans would owe Portland their, 2024 first or something like that. You'd have some sort of protection backup on it.
Okay. That'd be interesting, yeah. I've never seen a first skip a year. But yeah, that would...
I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. I mean, like the Lakers owe New Orleans, New Orleans can choose to get their 2025 first or their 2026 first. Never ever seen that before, so
yeah,
I think you can be creative with them like that. Anyway, 2nd, Indiana, good for them. 1st, Orlando. If Chet ends up in Orlando, maybe I'll just have to become a Magic fan. Suggs and Chet, man. Anyway,
Magic Uprise.
Yep, that's the Tankathon sim. Anyway. Charlotte's down in 9th. That is around the NBA. Let's look at the next 5 games. The last 5 games before the trade deadline. We got the Magic coming up next. That's going to be on, what is that? Monday?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. So we have
2 days off.
2 days off. Oh, thank God. I'm down for that. 2 days off, and then we play the Magic. Then we play the Lakers, second night of a back-to-back. Then the next day we'll have trade deadline stream on the 10th, and then another day off. And then we'll play the Knicks on the 12th, Bucks 14th, we'll get slaughtered there, and then Memphis on the 16th, we'll probably get slaughtered there as well. So, and then we'll have the All-Star break, and I am already ready for the All-Star break, Eric. Ah, man. Anyway, that is the next 5 games. Anything else you want to say for the stream, Eric?
We'll see you tomorrow when we trade CJ for Julius Randle.
Hopefully not. I pray. Fingers crossed. No, I will be so upset. But, I mean, maybe that's on the horizon. We'll see. Anyway, yeah. We'll be live again on Monday with Blazers Uprise Live. And we'll discuss, unless there's a trade.
Carson, it can't happen Friday. The trade deadline's Thursday, so we're done with Friday news dumps for trades at least.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Anyway, yeah. So, tough situation the Blazers are in after this trade, and we'll see if there's anything that comes out about this by more reputable sources. But, I mean, if I hear something, I'm going to tell it to you guys, and there's no reason why I would fake any of this, there's no point. Doesn't help me to lie about it. So, if you don't want to believe me, then don't believe me. That's completely fine. I'll just share what I hear. And with that, the Blazers get slaughtered tonight by the Milwaukee Bucks, 137-108. Good loss. Eric, anything else that you wanted to say for this live stream?
No, I mean, unless there's a trade, we'll see him Monday afternoon, and we'll, of course, be talking lots of trades, and surprised there hasn't been, basically any other NBA trades yet, so, which is another reason why that trade is stupid, but, yeah, we'll see you guys Monday afternoon, and then, yeah, we have several other streams, so stay tuned for tons of coverage, and if you want to see lots of us, you will get it next week.
Yep, that's that's what we have on tap for next week. Anyway, have a good rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll catch you on Monday. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.